Hello everyone, this is Rick and welcome to Astral Club. This is 5 ways to help loved ones pass on. Before we get started real quick, Patreon, if you'd like to support the work of Astral Club, you can do so by joining Patreon. I'm downloading 10 episodes from Astral Club every week onto Patreon. So anyone who is offline and has a podcast app can listen to Astral Club episodes without access to the internet. Of course, you can also still get no commercials. There's an email where we can talk back and forth. You can ask questions. And of course, you get your advanced videos on Sunday. Next up, private lessons. If you'd like to learn to astral project or perhaps just increase your current ability, I'd be more than glad to help you out. You'll find the link to Patreon and an email in the description of this episode. Everyone in the physical world will eventually, if we live long enough, suffer a loss. Many of us as children suffered losses when we lost pets. I can't tell you how many goldfish, hamsters, hermit crabs, and what have you that I and my siblings had to say goodbye to in our time as children. As I grew older, when my family dog passed, it certainly hit harder than the hermit crab that we had for 2 weeks. But it was still a loss that was mourned, and in a certain sense is still present in my heart to this day. I've talked in the past about earthbound spirits. I've discussed rescue operations. Luckily, these types of long-term earthbound spirits are relatively rare. On average, a soul will spend around 30 days or so saying its goodbyes before it passes on to another level in the astral to prepare for further progression, to prepare for reincarnation, what have you. So what can the living do during those important 30 days that can assist that soul that has just left the physical permanently, at least at this point? What can you do to assist it in moving on so that your help will allow it to continue to ascend to its next goal, rather than participating in some effort to hold it back, whether intentionally or unintentionally? I've developed about 5 ways that you can handle this experience. I understand, of course, that each of us is different, handles grief in a different way. But I think these 5 basic points will cover a lot of bases, and if you can follow them, it will help you and your loved one to avoid becoming trapped between this plane and the next, and allow them to proceed on their way. The first is mourn the loss. It's healthy to express your grief, your loss, your emotions, rather than bottle them up. You may have other emotions associated with this individual's passing. Not all of them may be positive. There may be negative emotions that you choose to express in some way. Just understand that this is the period of time when it's best for you and for your loved one who's moved on to feel the the emotions that are associated with physical loss. There's nothing wrong with experiencing those emotions. If you try to trap them, if you try to bury them down deep, they'll only fester and come out in some other, perhaps much more negative way. Number 2, reflect on your life with your loved one. Try to concentrate on the good times at this point. Yes, we all have memories of those who've moved on. Many of them will be good memories. Some of them will be unpleasant or negative memories. But at this stage of the game, try to concentrate on any good times that you experienced with that individual. Number 3, say goodbye to them in little ways over the next month. It can be emotionally overwhelming to say one big final goodbye within the first 30 days. Now, maybe your personality is different, and maybe you'd respond better to that type of situation than what I'm discussing here. But I think for many people, it'd be easier to say little goodbyes over the next month. Perhaps you see a movie, and you recall seeing this movie with your loved one years ago. Say a little goodbye to them as you watch the movie. Maybe you smell cinnamon buns fresh out of the oven that your significant other has cooked. And then that recalls a past memory you had with your loved one where they used to make these types of baked goods. Say goodbye to them in that moment. And as you go through those 30 days and you remember these little memories that you shared with your loved one, that you're reminded of in your present experience, those little goodbyes will help you to gradually let go and not force yourself into some sort of major gesture that might be too emotionally taxing for you, especially within these first 30 days. Thank them for sharing their physical life with you. That's the third one. You said goodbye to them in little ways over that month. Thank them for sharing their physical life with you. Number 4, let go of any lingering old scores, animosities, arguments, resentments over the next month. Let them go one at a time. Their old history now. Holding on to those negative experiences will not help you and will not help them either. Free yourself as much as freeing them from holding on to these old vendettas, because there's nothing that you can do now at this point to resolve an old score. That time is past, it's gone now. Now the best thing that you can do is move on yourself and allow them to do the same. You'll only be hurting yourself otherwise. Forgive them as best you can during this period in time as well. I'm not going to insist that you completely forgive someone within the first 30 days who wronged you in very serious ways. That's not my place to request or even or insist upon such a practice. In serious situations, it may take longer for you to forgive them. So forgive them as best you can in that first 30 days. And finally, number 5, let them go and wish them well in your meditations and or prayers. That's the best thing that you can do for them at this point. And in these 30 days, they'll more than likely be aware of your thoughts and emotions on some level. Don't try to selfishly hold them back. Allow them to proceed on to the next stage. That's the best that you can do, not only for your own mental well-being, but for their well-being as well. Whenever I talk about a subject like physical death, I always like to try to put it into a perspective. And perhaps the best way to do that is to use an example or a metaphor or something that we can look at as an observer and perhaps take some wisdom from. And my favorite example is, imagine intelligent caterpillars. They come upon one of their old friends who's now in a chrysalis. As far as they know, their friend is gone. He's passed on. He's no longer with them. I could imagine them having a little funeral for him. Hopefully they wouldn't bury him, but certainly feeling sad and trying to come to grips with what they consider a loss, something that has been taken from them. So they'll mourn and then move on. But unknown to them, unseen by them, is that that chrysalis will eventually open and reveal an entirely new, beautiful creation, which is a butterfly. And in a very real sense, physical death is nothing more than a chrysalis that is cracking open and revealing a beautiful new creation. And I find this type of thinking helps one to put the passing on of a loved one into some sort of perspective that allows you to move on with your life, secure in the knowledge that your loved one is also moving on with their life's journey. If you liked this episode, please hit the like button, share it with those of like minds, subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure that bell is on all so that you're always notified when the Wednesday afternoon and Saturday morning episodes are released. Please leave your questions and comments. I'm very interested in what you have to say. Do you agree with some of these steps? Do you disagree? Please let me know. And as always, this is Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.